Hey there, students. I'm going to try my hand at golden hour vlogging and just talk to you about what's going on in my life, and particularly in this case, what I'm reading. And if I had $1 for everyone who's ever told me, Richie, you gotta read Sapiens, I'd be able to buy you a nice dinner at the very least. Now, I've finally started reading Sapiens. Thank you very much, Jeff, for pushing me over the edge here. Of course, our favorite AP Euro teacher at AG also had a role in this as well. But a lot of people have said this is a great book. And now I can see why, because I've only gone one chapter into the book, and I've already answered one of the central questions of just humanity, where we are always wondering, why am I so anxious? And so you think about this. I'm a human being. I'm at the top of the food chain. I can just walk down the road and get dinner if I want to. I can drive if I want to. I can do all kinds of things. Everything has been laid out for us. When you compare us to other species who have to worry about being eaten, we really should have some of the least anxiety among the animal kingdom, yet we have some of the most. I think about this turn of the 20th century expressionist painting, the scream, where the person's just like, ah, sort of thing, okay? Probably screaming a lot louder than I just did. But the thing about this painting, which is one of the earliest expressionist works, is that it resonated with people because while it looked strange, when people saw this person just in this abject terror, they thought, that's how I feel on the inside. This resonates with me emotionally because I am always anxious, even if I don't show it right on my face. I am always anxious about something. Of course, there's another mid-20th century, a long poem called The Age of Anxiety. Now, of course, some textbooks in Western civilization have used that as a title, The Age of Anxiety. Some students ask me, can I have some help with the age of anxiety? And I'm thinking, that's really any human age. Humans are naturally anxious, and it takes so much intentional effort for us to overcome anxiety. And the big question is, why? Okay? So when it comes down to it, the first chapter of this book is titled An Animal of No Significance. Now, my first thought here is to think, author, how dare you? I'm a human being, right? But we're starting at the very beginning with the Big Bang, the beginning of life, and also the precursors to human life and the very beginning of human life itself, that Homo sapiens has been around for at least 130,000 years. We see even longer than that, where we see Neanderthal, Homo erectus, and these other human species that were around that were really just living among other species that are more powerful. When we think about the myth of Prometheus and Epimetheus in Pandora's box, you see that, Epimetheus was supposed to give all of these traits out. And meanwhile, he gave the bear size, fur, some cushion for the winter, some claws and teeth, and he gave the bird wings, right? The bird can fly. And he gave the cheetah all of this speed. And then finally Prometheus comes back and he says to Epimetheus, you forgot someone. And there is the human being with none of these gifts. And of course Prometheus goes and steals fire from the gods, showing that the human race depends on its manipulation of technology in order to be on top. Now, we've not been on top for that long. When you go back 130,000 years, you're still looking at a situation where humans have to be afraid of some of these predators that are out there. And it's only been with the frequent use of fire that we've been able to establish ourselves as supreme. But it's relatively recent, okay? Because when we think about the lion sleeps what, like 24 hours a day? When somebody says the lion sleeps tonight in the mighty jungle, surprise, the lion's just about always sleeping. The lion doesn't give a darn about anything. The lion just kind of does its thing. And the reason for that is that the lion has been at the top of the food chain for a few million years, that this is ingrained in the lion's DNA, that it's at the top of the food chain, that it has nothing to worry about, that it can just wake up and, all right, I'm going to go get me some food. Let's go kill something. Now, human beings, we look back a few 100,000 years. And not only are these humans who are living among all of these other animals in the African savanna, a lot of them more fierce, a lot bigger than they are, they watch the predator, the lion, take down its prey. They watch it eat until it's filled. And then, well, they can't go in yet because first the jackals and the hyenas have to get their cut. And then finally, the humans, with their stone tools, go in there and they're able to get into the bones and eat out the marrow. That is one of the explanations for why the first human beings to use tools did so, that this was something that was a practical measure to get bone marrow. So humans, being some of the last scavengers of a corpse, they are getting something that no one else can get. But when you look at this being's place in the food chain, it's not really that high. It is somewhere in the middle. And when you think about this, while the lion has had millions of years to adjust to its place at the top of the food chain and really appreciate it, human beings really haven't. And so what we see here is that although we've gotten to this place where I'm golden hour vlogging, I don't have anything better to do, right? My next meal's taken care of. I've got a roof over my head and all kinds of other great things. We still feel anxious, even with this, because our DNA has not had time to adjust. 100,000 years ago, we were one of maybe 6 human species that were just living among other species. And in the course of billions of years, some 13 billion years ago or something like that. I don't know how they keep track, but they've got some way of doing this, right? So 13.5 billion years ago, that's where this thing starts. So it starts at the very beginning. When we take that into account, 100,000 years really isn't that long. So this is where we have to start thinking about that. And when I assume that we're going to keep going as I continue to read this book, that when you follow human beings and thinking about the next stage of evolution, it's overcoming anxiety, overcoming this very irrational anxiety, where all we can think about in a lot of cases is failure before we do something. Anxiety is such a fixture of the human condition that Soren Kierkegaard, the great 19th century existentialist philosopher and theologian, wrote, "The greater the anxiety, the greater the man." And when you think about that, that may ring true, because people who are very anxious about things, they're also concerned about excellence. And a lot of times the anxiety works in our favor because we use that anxiety to push ourselves to the next level. But then again, when you look at the lion, does the lion need anxiety in order to go on a hunt? No, the lion just doesn't. It's in its DNA. Now, we have to think in terms of, how can I get myself to the point where I can do excellent things without being anxious? I mean, that's truly the next stage of human evolution, is it not? And we have to do so consciously. That's one thing, that we have a gift of consciousness. And when we think about failure, we need to be redirecting that, telling ourselves, hey, breathe. You're at the top of the food chain. So whether you are about to go on stage in front of people, ask a girl to the dance, teach a class, right? For me, going live on video or something like that, we have to remind ourselves, you're somebody. That voice in your head that says you are an animal of no significance, because that's what our inner voice is telling us. I think that the title of this first chapter is so great because it's the voice that we hear in our heads over and over again, telling us what is still in our DNA, that you are an animal of no significance. So as you go on with your life and go on towards success, think about that. Think about what it is that's in those genes that's telling you something that really is no longer true. I think to a certain point, successful existence is about playing catch up with our genes. So I am looking forward to reading the rest of this book and maybe even commenting on some other chapters. Let me know in the comments what you think about this, if you'd like to see me talking about more books, and let me know what you think of what I said, what you think about the role of anxiety in the human condition, and think about this book, maybe even get a hold of it. Next time you assume the worst, remember, you're at the top. It's time to let your DNA know it. It's always a pleasure.